Okay, so Jesse, drama over at CNN. The New York Post with quite an exclusive on, first of all, the morning show over there. You're going to be shocked to learn is in, basement dweller territory when it comes to the ratings. It's an absolute failure. CNN this morning, this is from earlier reporting, suffered its lowest week. I think this is as of through January 22nd. Its lowest week since launch, which was only 3 months ago. They averaged 331,000 viewers. Just for reference, Fox and Friends had nearly 1 million. Even Morning Joe is up to 760,000, which is good for that show. They're down at 331,000 viewers on that show. No one's watching. Well, that can really upset the anchors, apparently, because behind the scenes, it's not going much better. According to the New York Post, in an exclusive report, Don Lemon screamed at his co-host, Kaitlan Collins. According to two sources with knowledge, says the New York Post, Lemon approached Collins following the show's Thursday, December 8th broadcast and unloaded on her in front of staffers as he accused her of interrupting him on air. Quote, Don screamed at Kaitlan, who was visibly upset, and ran out of the studio. And it was over, reportedly, this incident here. We've gone back and pulled the exchange between the two of them that we believe this was based on from that day of air. Watch this.
I think we are told that we're standing by for the President of the United States.
It's been 10 months since she's been held in captivity.
At 8:30 this morning. I expected to speak at the White House at any moment now.
And one
he
thing
was
to
briefed.
watch.
Stand by 1 second. He was briefed. Did you want to wait?
No, I think we should bring in Jonathan Franks.
Okay. So there was some interrupting. It happens when you co-host a show. It happens. I hosted a show with Bill Helmer for 3 years. I was on the air with Brett Baer more times than I can count. And sometimes somebody gets on your nerves. What you don't do is scream at them after the fact. Later you say, oh, we stepped on each other. Oh, it's all about servicing the audience if you're a professional. If you're a douchebag, you scream at the woman next to you and blame it on her.
Yeah, I generally try to avoid screaming at the various people who work for me around the studio here, Megyn. I find it, as an adult, it works better if you don't scream at people like they're children. But here's the real problem. Yeah,
you're supposed to have a good rapport with on the air.
Don Lemon doesn't have the talents to continue to bring baggage. The rule number one of employment always is make sure your talent outweighs your baggage, because we all have baggage, right? Everyone has something. But Don Lemon is not an interesting person. People forget when Don Lemon had his own nighttime show on CNN, it sucked. And it sucked so bad for so long, they eventually brought in Cuomo, who was doing the show beforehand, to do Don Lemon's A Block. Now, let me explain this to people. When you do TV, A Block is the opening of your show. It goes A, B, C, D, and you can do the math from there. A Block is also the most important block because it is the most watched block on your show. So Don Lemon sucked so bad that he was unable to carry the A Block, the most important block of his own show. They had to keep the previous host there to carry the A Block with him. Then he gets kicked down to morning time. Now he already got a demotion, and everyone knows it was a demotion. He's only still around because he's a black gay dude, and everybody knows it. This is not an interesting person. He doesn't have anything at all funny or informative to say whatsoever. He's already been demoted, frankly been demoted twice when you consider the Cuomo thing. And now he's chewing out Stafford's. Don, buddy, unless you want to go down to the mailroom, which frankly is where you belong, I would make sure I'm minding my P's and Q's if I couldn't do TV and yet somebody gave me a television show.
It's so true. He better be careful because honestly, that show's on its last legs before it even got on its first legs. And I will say Kaitlan Collins is a competent reporter. She's somebody, I wonder whether the politics have anything to do with it, but if I'm not mistaken, she was an intern for Hannity at one point. She started off, I think, at Fox. So listen, I don't think she's a right-winger at all, but I think she's probably more balanced than Don Lemon certainly is. I mean, you'd have to be. And you can sense the tension. And they don't have a good rapport at all. And I don't think CNN is interested in getting rid of her. So here's the thing, though. Again, I've co-hosted more hours than I can count with a lot of guys with big egos, appropriately big egos. And never have I screamed at a colleague after like a co-host or had him scream at me. We've had charged disagreements. Had a charged disagreement with Chris Wallace one time. We were never screaming at each other, and you pick it up right after. If somebody ever screamed at me to the point where I was visibly upset and ran out of the studio, I would have that person fired. I would make sure that person was fired. And I'll tell you something. If that is true, the New York Post's report, Jesse, then I will say that's not the first time he's done it. I will go out on a limb right now and tell you that's not the first time. There will be another woman, if the New York Post digs, who he's co-anchored with, I guarantee you, who's going to come out and say, me too. Because if you behave like that toward a colleague with whom you share the air and you share the show, this will not be the first time. So I do wonder.
Oh, 1,000%. You just nailed it. If you are the type of person who views that as being an option to treat a coworker in that way, like that, you just think that that's something that you can do, then you've done it before and you've gotten away with it before. And this is the problem. CNN has let him get away with it before because there are going to be more. I guarantee there'll be more. And CNN will have to start admitting, well, we did have this person file a report a couple years ago. We just chose not to do anything. It'll all come rolling out now that they've been. Again, I don't understand why they've been coddling this guy. There are plenty of people out there, there's so much talent out there, television-wise, from local to otherwise. Why are you hanging on to Don Lemon? He sucks.
Yes. And honestly, there's a lot of great people who are Black and great people who are gay. Like because Don Lemon did say, I'm Black and I'm gay, as Jeff Zucker was on his way out. I mean, he actually reminded us of that on the air to keep his job. So even if they're trying to check an identity box, you can do it with some very talented people, not named Don Lemon. But that's an interesting question you just raised because it could potentially have been documented. HR could potentially have a record. I wonder whether this went to HR. If his name were Tucker Carlson, they'd be digging through those files right now, right? Like, does CNN have any desire to do that? Will there be follow-up? Is he that untouchable that whatever he does is no problem? Here's what CNN is saying. Doesn't certainly sound like they're getting ready to look into his history or ask any more questions. They say to Mediaite, which posted the story and asked for a follow-up, the Post's account is wildly overblown and 2 months old. Well, that's a deflection. We know it's 2 months old. The original report by the Post said it happened December 8th. Don, Kaitlan, and Poppy, that's the third co-host, were friends before they were co-anchors, and they remain friends today. Again, that's a dodge. What does that mean? Did he do it or didn't he? Did he scream at her to the point where she ran down the hall visibly upset, or didn't she, in front of staffers? And then Mediaite goes on, despite CNN formally pushing back, Mediaite can confirm that the events described by the Post are largely true, though Lemon's alleged screaming is being overplayed. Okay, so let's see. Let's find out. Because right now, we're being told that Chris Licht, who's now running the joint, was reportedly appalled by his behavior. And that actually told him to take the next day off to cool off. They say the Post, at this point, Kaitlan Collins wants to be on set with Don as little as possible. So that conflicts with CNN's statement that they're still friends. And that's basically where it stands. I don't know, Jesse. I feel like these are the same people who, Don Lemon's out there every night when he was on his primetime show lecturing us about how we need to be better people. Everybody's a racist. If you voted for Trump, you're a terrible racist, white supremacist. And this is how he's treating people? Okay. Says something.
A lot of this stuff, sorry for interrupting, Megyn, don't scream at me. A lot of this stuff comes back to Trump. I believe, I've always believed this, that he created a media bubble, that a lot of these cable news channels were kind of getting stale and dying as people are cutting the cord and they're finding different ways to consume news. And that Trump came along, and Trump was, love him or hate him, so interesting that he brought eyeballs no matter what. So if you're a dork like Don Lemon and you don't have any talent, you can still go sit down on CNN and talk about Donald Trump for an hour and get ratings because Trump is interesting. So he brings the interesting. And then the second Trump is gone, he's not president anymore. Well, you're still stuck there not being interesting, and you can't talk about Trump every single night. Now, I think this has plagued a lot more than CNN and Don Lemon. I think it's killed a lot of them. You spent 4 years not getting better personally, not getting better as a network, not bringing in new talent, not cultivating people who actually have something to say. You spent 4 years just screaming, Trump, 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 for an hour every single night, and it brought you ratings, and you fooled yourself into thinking you have talent. You don't have talent. Trump's interesting. Now he's gone. Now you're boring again.
Yeah, you're right. Because you know what's interesting about Don Lemon? Because I used to know Lemon, and actually we used to be kind of friendly. And Trump broke him in the same way he broke CNN and he broke Jeff Zucker and he broke so many broadcasters in particular. He broke him to the point where, like, Lemon used to be more sort of, I don't know, like, I remember him once quoting with favor the Bill Cosby message of like, pull up your damn pants, like, come on, like, be upstanding, treat family well, and all that stuff. Now, of course, we realize that that messenger had problems back then too, Bill Cosby. But then he got wokeified, started casting his judgment on everybody. He was totally on board the woke racism train, no matter what the story was, and became just derisive of half the country. You remember that sneering clip with him, with the guy from Lincoln Project? Oh, God, it was, I can't remember the two guys' names. Wajahat.
Rick Wilson, I think.
Ali and Rick Wilson. And the three of them, like, I can't even spell Ukraine, or Ukraine. And they were doing their middle whatever. It was so pejorative and dismissive of half the country, anybody who supported Trump. And then he went on to say, if you voted for Trump on his show, backed it up on his show, that you're a racist if you voted for him.
Well, you mentioned a great word, dismissive of half the country. We talked a little bit earlier tonight, actually, about how they're all in LA, they're all in New York, they're all in their own little extremely blue areas, and that's why they're making crappy movies and crappy cable shows, and they don't ever speak to normal people. Well, it comes back to them being dismissive of normal people. People will get confused, especially people on the right, of I don't understand why don't they want to appeal to me? Why aren't they just staying neutral? Why not try to appeal to me? They despise you. These people are dismissive of you. They despise you. They do mock you. And you didn't go to Wharton School of Business. You didn't go to NYU. You're just some stupid rube. All you know how to do is farm. You probably can't even spell. That is how these people view you. They're not trying to appeal to you. They would never try to appeal to you. The same way you wouldn't try to walk out and reason with the slug crawling across the sidewalk. That's how these people look at you. They would never come try to speak to you, speak to your values, represent you in any way. They look at you as simply beneath them. And people feel that now. Half the country feels that. It's not hard, Megyn. I know you see it when you turn on the TV to feel spoken down to. No, I don't want my child to wear a mask on a plane. No, I think this mask is stupid. The way they speak to you, like you're some stupid idiot, anti-science murderer at all times. The country feels it. It's ugly.
Their rage toward you, anybody who disagrees with them or isn't woke is real. But their outrage so often seems performative. Is he really that upset about this, that, or the other? And he's trying to juice up his ratings. Jesse and The First are now taking over the new Newsmax slot. Newsmax went away. They didn't struck a deal with DirecTV. The First is going on there. So you may be sad about your Newsmax friends, but The First has people like Jesse Kelly, Dana Lash, a lot of our friends, so you'll love that.